Hi, everyone. It's Arry, Chair of the Cascadia Blockchain Council here. Today, we had a wonderful AMA Ask Me Anything with the CEO of Okcoin, Fang. It was just a really, really great session. Was really just enamored. I think the community was just really enamored with how humble and how just authentic she was in answering the questions and just being very authentic and real. It was just really nice to get to spend some time with her, and very thankful that she was able to spend some time with us. Thank you to Angie, my co-host, for bringing Hong in because Angie is now a product manager at Okcoin, which was really exciting to see. So yeah, we got to hear about Hong's past experiences going from Goldman Sachs to being an investor and finally the CEO of Okcoin. I asked her questions about her laser eyes, asking her about crypto and Bitcoin. We talked a lot about regulations in the United States versus China, and also a lot of the misinformation that is out there. And lots of good questions from the community, including the listing process for Okcoin. Definitely check it out. I hope you learned as much as I did. And don't forget, we have an AMA every Friday from 12 to 1 p.m. PST. Just sign up with the Blockchain Underground and feel free to ping me with any questions, suggestions, or even ideas on future guests that we can have for these AMAs. I hope everyone's doing well. Stay safe out there, and together we rise. Bye. All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We have Fang from Okcoin, the CEO, joining us today. I'm really excited. So this is a community AMA, which means we're going to start off with a nice introduction about Hong, and maybe I'll kick off with a question or two. But we'll go with the normal rules of every AMA that we do. So if you have any questions, use the reactions that are at the bottom of your Zoom window. You click on that and you can raise your hand. And then that'll indicate to me or Angie, who's also co-hosting, that you want to ask a question, and we'll call you up. If you're shy and you don't want to ask a question in real time,
it's usability studies, you could probably fit a little bit more, but
reading you, all you have to do is also put it into the chat. So we'll be watching the chat. So if you have any comments or questions, just pop it in there, and then we'll read it off and ask as time and allotment allows. All right. Yay. Okay, so make sure you use the reactions at the bottom, which allows you to raise your hands, or make sure to use the chat. And that way we're not talking on top of each other. All right. Well, Hong, thank you so much for joining us. We're really excited to have you and be able to interface and ask you questions. As a woman in crypto, leading a ginormous crypto exchange, it's quite an honor, and also very inspiring to see all that you've been able to accomplish and are continuing to accomplish. Could you give us a little bit of background? I know you came from Goldman Sachs, but how did you find yourself as the CEO of this giant global crypto exchange from Goldman Sachs, and some background around that?
Yeah, no, thank you for having me here. I treat this as a conversation among friends or friends to be, so I'll just keep it very informal. I spent 8 years at Goldman. Before then, I grew up in China, came to US for business school, and joined Goldman in 2008. That was kind of the most turmoil time of going into investment banking. But the original intent of me going in that direction was that, I always feel like the free markets was the foundation of everything. And being in a free markets in the financial sector is an opportunity for me to see what's really going on and what's driving both economy and kind of the real activity. And then I spent 8 years there, always in financial institutions group. Did a lot of stuff ranging from financial financing activities and M&As and spin-off and all kinds of stuff that you can imagine, all kinds of financial instruments. And by the end of the day, I was kind of bored about what I was doing. And I feel like it was a great training experience for me, but I want to kind of get more involved in the growth activities, and I spent a decent amount of time when I was at Goldman with fintech business, helping them raise capital and things like that. So I think that side of things is interesting and exciting. So I ended up doing growth investment, looking at tech companies and fintech companies. I was doing that with a serial entrepreneur in China. The first opportunity, actually, investment opportunity was Okcoin. So it was very random. It was very, very random. My previous boss, he was a good friend with a Japanese founder of Softbank. And he heard about crypto because of that and became a big believer. We somehow came across this opportunity because Okcoin was back then the largest crypto exchange in China. So I got to know Star, I got to know the business, and we ended up investing in the business. So we led the Series B investment back in end of 16, early 17. So that was really the real start point for me in getting into crypto. I got exposure to it. I heard about Bitcoin actually in 2012 or 13, but it was too dumb not to take a deeper look at it. I was actually, the concept was introduced to me by a very smart banker, a female banker actually. She somehow is kind of, I don't know how involved she is right now with it, but she talked about it, but I was like, just dusted off. I was like, that's probably something that doesn't make sense. But took me a while to actually get to it. But it was lucky that I ultimately ended up where I am. I ended up sitting on the board for Okcoin for a couple of years, and for anyone who have a general sense of the history of Okcoin as an organization, we actually went through a pretty roller coaster, if you will, since 2016, 17. So it was, the largest platform there. But then 17, Chinese government basically tapped on the shoulders of all the major platforms and say, hey, you guys need to stop this because I don't like RMB flowing into crypto, and that's kind of not controllable. So we stopped that business, and obviously, as an investor, I was sitting on the side. I was worrying that all the money went busted because basically all the business that's kind of profitable is wiped down to zero overnight. Wow. But fortunately, I think that's when I started to see the resilience of the organization of the team. The team really believes in it and was able to actually make changes. So I was sitting on the quote unquote sideline on the board as an investor for a couple more years, again, going through the industry cycles. There was a long bear market where I don't know about every one of you here, how your personal experience have been through that cycle. But for me, that was also a soul-searching period, right? It's like, am I making the right decision in investing in this business? Is this just speculation? Is this going away, or is something real here? So there was quite a bit of soul-searching and beating up myself during that cycle. But I think ultimately coming out of it, firming up the belief in the long-term vision of what we are working on. Obviously, technology is not there, and human nature is human nature. There are always ugly things and noises in the market, but I think ultimately taking the positive side of Bitcoin and what it shows, what's possible for a more transparent and inclusive system is really driving what we ultimately want to work on, continue to work on. So ultimately, in 19. I switched from investor. I told my ex-boss, I'm quitting the investment. I want to go and build, and I'll take care of this. This is the best investment I've made for you. So I'll make sure we'll make it work. So I switched to Okcoin and start to really get in deep into the operation and really start to build the business here. So I'll stop there and see if there's any question.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I'm an operator myself, so I have lots of questions behind the scenes on the operations, but I'll hold back because I know the committee already has some questions. Let's see, like Brian, I think you had a question you just pinged me about. Do you want to ask?
Yeah, hi, Ms. Fang. First, just thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us. I really appreciate it. I'm an Okcoin user. I love your platform. I think it's awesome. You guys are doing a really great job, especially with security. My question is about listing new assets. So I was hoping you could just tell us more about the process you go through in selecting new assets to list and how that process works from a financial perspective from the exchange.
Yeah, we have a very rigorous process in listing. Generally, the listing team would take a look at all the assets out there. They will look at the utility, use case for the asset, the technology, engineering community, developer community, if there is a valid foundation there, and also look at the broader community for the project and see if the use case is valid, if there's any strong potential future for that particular token. And obviously there are kind of engineering and security, a kind of high level assessment of the asset as well. And then after that, obviously there are compliance and legal evaluation that we have to go through, because we are a exchange registered in US and regulated, and there are all kinds of compliance requests. So we want to make sure that we don't step on the red line of listing of securities. Number one. Number two, from our bottom of our heart, we also believe that crypto in essence should be very different from security. There has been a lot of conversation around securitized token in the industry, but I've never been a personal fan of that. I think crypto should be a native token and it should be decentralized. And when you have a very real decentralized community like Bitcoin, there's no way it is going to look like a security anyway. So there are assessment around that, around the risk of security being viewed as a security from a compliance and legal risk perspective, but also a assessment of whether this is a real decentralized project, or if something is transitioning from a more centralized project to start with to a decentralized community, how far is it, and how real that intent is. And then we'll make assessment, and there's committee process. The committee will vote on some of those recommendations, and there are some assets that pass the assessment, some that don't, and those that pass will end up on the platform that you see as a user.
Did I answer your question?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Awesome. Next up, we have Scott.
Hi, Hong. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Scott.
Hi. With the number of exchanges that are currently available, tell me what differentiates Okcoin from other exchanges.
Yeah, I'll talk about that both from a internal organizational perspective and then from a customer perspective or user perspective. I think internally, what I feel really special about Okcoin and our group is that the organization and our team is truly anti-fragile. That term was actually a comment from when I was joining a podcast, and I was talking about the experience and our kind of journey since 2014, 15, and through 17 till now. And I got this comment about you guys being very anti-fragile. And I realized, yeah, that's actually a good comment about who we are, because there are all kinds of changes in the industry, and you have to be very strong, both in a heart and mind, to be able to handle all those types of stuff. And we have been changing really a lot. Again, transitioning from what we were as a China-only platform to how we actually exodus out of US, out of China, and come to US and continue to build our global brand. And there are all kinds of changes that we have to deal with organizationally as well. So I think from that perspective, I feel really special about our team and our platform. And it's because in this scenario, if you don't have a team who truly believe in what we are building for, it's really hard to pull things together. And I think we're lucky that we have that team, and we have this passionate team who want to build a better world, and who want to actually embrace changes and force better things out of ourselves. Now, I think when it comes to a customer, yes, there are a lot of exchanges out there, but I don't like thinking about building what we can for the customer from a competitive perspective, because ultimately it's what we can bring value to the community. And I do think that there are a lot of holes in the market that we need to fill ultimately. How can we build a very deliberate and accessible and an easy experience to everyone? We believe that this crypto should be accessible to everyone. There are a lot of constraints in making that happen, right? There are compliance restrictions, and there are technological and cognizant restrictions. And I think we as an industry are doing a pretty bad job in introducing crypto to new entrants in a reasonable and accessible and friendly way. So I think there's a lot of stuff that can be done, and we are doing our part in that, and we are trying to build the best and a differentiated experience for our customers. And also, as part of that, there's a delicate balance in between how to bring the best experience, the most accessible experience to our customers, and also introduce crypto native ideas to the customers. There are a lot of new things happening, right? And most of the times, CryptoPunks or the crypto natives are using them and feel happy about the complicated user experience because of the way it is, the technology, our early stage it is. But how can we strike a balance in introducing those new elements while making it accessible? I think that's where we have been spending a lot of time and trying to innovate a lot more, including integrating Lightning, including integrating some of the other second layer protocols. And also, even when it comes to listing, we tend to think about listing not as just making an asset available to the market, but also try to think about how can we work deeper with the community and try to amplify the use cases of those and help the market grow. Obviously, try to be a neutral platform as well. So I think those are things that we're trying to do and try to make it fun. Crypto is fun, and we want to make it fun. We want the community voice to help us kind of go in the right direction. So hopefully that answers your question, but that's how I think about, that quote unquote, how to differentiate question.
Thank you.
Thanks, Hong. Next up, we have Sharon.
Thanks, Arry. And Hong, thank you so much for spending your time this Friday afternoon. I'm a state senator from the state of Washington and have been working with Arry for a while on some policies to put into place and actually to try and get some regulators to stand down where it's inappropriate. And what's increasingly frustrating to me is that there's no national regulatory system in place. And so what we're seeing across the United States is this patchwork quilt of regulations being put into place, which is causing developers and causing platforms to move across the states and actually to move across to other countries. And so I guess I have more of a comment and or maybe ask for your feedback. What can we do as regulators or as policymakers rather, to work with people such as yourself more so that people really understand what the technology is behind what you're trying to do? Because it seems like to me there's so much misinformation out there about what crypto really is all about. I mean, I just listened to Senator Warren on MSNBC the other day, and she really was just putting forward one thought of what she thought crypto was. And I thought there's so much more to the message. And so it's very frustrating to me as a policymaker.
Yeah. Thank you, Senator Sharon. Thank you for your comment. It's very dear to my heart. I have a lot of comments I want to kind of add on top of what you have just said. So I'm hoping that I can capture all of that. First of all, first of all, I want to say thank you to both you and all the other more forward-looking policymakers in the government who is trying to do more educational efforts to let people see what this is really about, what Bitcoin is really about, what crypto is really about. There is a lot of misunderstanding, obviously. And a lot of those misunderstanding is kind of natural, right? Because when we think about Bitcoin versus the current monetary system, when we think about crypto versus how the current society operates, it is just vastly different. And it's a complete change of kind of paradigm, right? So when that happens, it's really hard to break away from the norm and from some of the basic assumptions. We just think that it's just truth, but actually it's just assumptions, and see things in a different light. I think that in itself, the educational hurdle is the biggest hurdle for further adoption. And I think for that, the beautiful part of it is for Bitcoin specifically or crypto as a whole. The beautiful part of it is that it is a grassroots movement, and it is a movement where everyone's efforts counts. Everyone, meaning every individual and every participant, stakeholders in the system counts. And for us, we want to do our best, do a much better job. We're not doing enough. I don't think we are from an in-product educational perspective. We are doubling down on that. And I think we can do more, partnering with other stakeholders in the industry to do more educational efforts. And that also comes from every one of you and every one of us, including you, Senator, right? Having that voice at different levels, talking about what you see in this new system, in this new potential future, I think is extremely compelling and valuable. At least it forced people to think about, okay, actually, you know what, there is a different voice there. Should I think about it in a different way? And I think that forced people to reset and start to see things differently. That would be, I think that's my kind of reaction number one. Reaction number two is, you ask about how we can do better. We are very open to both more conversation at the policymaking level or in whatever format. So if there's anything we can do to help in that process, let us know. We'll try to do our best to help. On your comment about regulatory framework patchwork in U.S. and versus people moving out of U.S. Yes, I agree. There's a lot of moving parts right now in the regulatory space, and to be honest, putting on the operational hat, it does come at a huge cost to people operating in this space, right? Because innovation inevitably comes with gray areas because we're challenging the status quo. There are things that we're doing with technology. We're trying to remove the middleman, and unfortunately, government is a part of the middleman system, including the accountants and lawyers. All these are middleman linkage, where when one-on-one value transmission, permissionless value transmission is not possible, you need those trusted third party to help establish trust in the society. But what we're seeing with crypto, I think the biggest challenge is that this is a permissionless system where no third party is needed, hopefully. And maybe the end result is not that we don't need the third party everywhere. Maybe there are pockets of society where that third party can be minimized, and maybe there are places where we still need that. We don't know where we will end up with, but the direction is that we're going to remove a lot of the third party out of the system, which will be painful. And that's the part where it's just natural that the regulation will have to catch up, because regulation was made for the past, not for the future. I think that's the tough part. Now, and that's also where we as a licensed and registered exchange are all coping with. We want to kind of be forward-looking, but at the same time, we're mindful of that compliance part, and we want to kind of play within the rules so that we can be a better and more effective bridge between the old and the new. But at the same time, I have I came from China, right? So I had that. I had experience in the in different parts of the world, and when I look at U.S. regulatory landscape, I actually think that despite all the kinds of things that people are saying about the challenges here from a regulatory perspective, U.S. regulatory landscape is actually one of the more transparent and easier to orient one. And also, I love the fact that we do have state and federal balance. And that's actually where innovation can happen better with separation of ownership. Because again, crypto is a community, it is a grassroots movement. And state and municipality governments can do a much better job, a more effective job in listening to the community needs and partnering with communities to drive innovation in a responsible way, and can be a great bridge between local communities and the federal government. So, I don't know. I'm constantly debating. Again, I'm treating this as a closed door conversation, so I'm just going through anything out there. I'm personally debating: do we actually want a universal federal regulatory framework for crypto in US? I don't know. I think maybe we are too early stage for that, right? Because nobody would know what that one size fits all framework should look like. And we don't want to handcuff ourselves. So I think actually having that state versus federal distinction when it comes to regulatory framework is actually good. It's an advantage for US innovation. That's just my personal read. Happy to hear different perspectives.
Really interesting, Hong, just hearing your perspectives. And also an opportunity for each one of us in the community to help amplify and evangelize to our friends and family in our communities, because we're all part of that education front lines. Scott writes, I would argue that we need an international standards and governing entity, maybe, or some sort of decentralized organization to help us coordinate more effectively.
How effective is UN?
Yeah.
How effective is IMF?
Yeah. All right, next question, Manuel.
Hey, thanks guys. So you actually might have answered at least most of my question on that last answer. But so I'm very new to crypto. So I'm learning a lot of everything I'm learning, I'm seeing for the very first time. And when you learn anything new that's outside of your previous experience, you never really know what is like misinformation or what kind of like the path where you should go down, like what people are trying to persuade you down a certain path, or like you never really know what's trustworthy. So obviously crypto has a huge issue with that. And you mentioned a little bit about that with the issue of misinformation. And I'm working through some like experiments and projects to try to tackle that. But it sounds like what your solution to that is more education, right? Did I kind of get that from your previous answer? Education is how you would tackle this issue of misinformation?
I guess yes and no. I think education is important to spread the word and help newcomers navigate the space, which in itself is transparent, but it's quite complicated, right? Being transparent is different from being from everyone knowing exactly where things are and what the status is. I think we cannot take for granted that anything on chain is something that everybody knows. It's definitely not the case. But I think the second piece is also about both a better user experience design in different pockets of crypto, either wallet or exchange experience or any other experience, or in various protocols, to how to be more mindful of folks who are not crypto native, when they navigate through things, where do they find the most important information? I think there is a constant evolution there. I would admit that actually in itself is a pretty challenging part to start with. Just again, from the operational side, from what I've seen, particularly most people in the crypto who have been here for a while, who knows exactly what's happening. They're very, just because of the nature of its niche, being a niche market to start with. I think a lot of those core players have more engineering background and kind of economics or technology background, but less so of a kind of a design or customer experience side of background. So there's a natural bridge that there need to be filled. But I think time will address this issue over time, because when the market continues to go through the cycles, the price continues to go up and down, more and more people outside the adoption curve will start looking at this, and some of them will get converted and attracted into building on things. And I'm sure a good portion of that will bring good design mindset and make that easier. But I think it takes time. And I think the other part together with that is also technology, continued technology evolution within crypto. Take DeFi, for example, right? We talk about, again, DeFi being transparent. Again, my point on, everything on chain is not necessarily things that will simplify things, right? There will still, human nature is human nature, financial structure is financial structure. There will still be different layers of financial instruments built either on chain or in the existing financial infrastructure. The difference between the two is the former is more transparent. If you know where to look for things, you can, but it's quite fragmented at this point. So there's still, those type of potential risk of what we see with the mortgage-backed securities back then. There is that level of risk. So I think there are that, but again, I think that takes time to, a lot of those issues to actually take time to address. Both, education will help. Education, I think a lot of stakeholders are trying to do better education, both on the company side as well as individual KOLs are also doing that. And then I think continued product development and experience improvement, both within product as well as kind of within all those kind of protocol level, will also help as well. And attracting strong talents into the space to tackle those problems will be critical.
Yeah, and I also wonder, you mentioned human nature, and I just wonder if it's possible to eliminate misinformation, because there's a lot of money in Bitcoin and there's a lot of opportunity for people to get rich really, really fast. And so they're going to be more likely to push their own agenda in order to meet that goal. And a lot of times misinformation is a way to get to that goal. So it's like, is it possible? And is product design really going to change that? Or is there an adoption, that can take a very long time to get critical adoption to be able to mass educate everybody on what they need to be able to recognize in order to discern from misinformation. So just, I don't know, it seems like a really complicated problem.
Yeah, I think, misinformation to me, there are two sides of it. One side is that some party intentionally give out wrong information to mislead markets and benefit from it. I think that to me is criminal, right? It's immoral and criminal. Mm-hmm. But then there's also the other side, which is all the information is out there, and maybe everyone sees the same information, but people just have different perspective of the same set of information. Would you call that misinformation? That's up for debate. And that's also why there is a buy-sell activity in market, right? Because people just have different read on what will happen, even with perfect information in hand of everybody, there will still be different judgment calls everyone has to make about certain set of facts. If everyone has the same assessment, then the market is dead. Like the price will stop at that one level and we're all good. But I don't think that will ever happen. Ultimately, hopefully for Bitcoin, that will kind of happen, kind of trend toward a more steady state price. But that level of gaps in people's assessment of the same sets of facts, I think will always be there. But the first part, I think, is probably more where we want to be more diligent about as a market participants and figure out how we can do a better job to stop that or prevent that. And
the first part is the criminal part that you were talking about.
Yeah. And sometimes maybe it's not that kind of intentional, but there are unintentional misinformation that we want to also strip out as well, right? So I think those parts are something that every one of us being part of the market participants, and particularly for us as a player, a platform in the market, we want to be really careful of and continue to look for those things correct and do a better job.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Totally agree. Taking a different path in the conversation, Hung, I noticed you have laser eyes in some of your photos. And so I wanted to ask a question of, do you see yourself more as a Bitcoiner? Are you Bitcoin versus crypto? And, why or why not? And yeah, just along that.
I'm definitely a Bitcoiner, but I'm not a Bitcoin maximalist.
What does that mean?
To me, Bitcoin maximalist is someone who believes in Bitcoin and Bitcoin only. And I see no problem with that. I think that in itself is quite powerful. I'm probably, I don't know, maybe 70% Bitcoin maximalist, but I still retain 20 to 30% for what's possible outside Bitcoin, because ultimately, if I believe in a future that is better than today, that should entail not only the monetary system, but also the whole social fabric. And in that future, we have to be able to build on Bitcoin and around Bitcoin and build on other things that can speak to Bitcoin, and have to leave room for other crypto innovations to happen. And I think there are a lot of good builders out there. You can argue, you can debate on the merits, pros and cons of various consensus mechanisms, but I think a lot of those debates are not so different from our debate about different formats of democracy and things like that. So it's human nature is human nature.
So laser eyes, you think Bitcoin's going to hit 100K this year, or where are you on that camp? Not financial advice.
No financial advice. I personally don't look at timeline. I just buy and hold for Bitcoin. I just buy and then put it there and then whatsoever. But I think there's still a good chance of it hitting. But for me, I'm not just holding it till end of this year. So no matter what, longer term, I think that price is a no-brainer. But again, that's just only my personal assessment. I'm saving it for my kids. So future generational wealth.
So then a couple of questions that go from there. With China banning a lot of the mining activity and the exodus that's happened, do you think that was a good decision for China, or pro or cons? Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, is this going to be put out there? Is this video going to be put out there?
Yes.
Anyway, so I think I don't think it's a strategically right move for China longer term. I think it's pretty sad that this is being done. When I was in China in 16, 17, we actually had conversations with regulatory bodies, not official regulatory bodies, but kind of affiliated bodies. And I'm always of the view that this is something, again, it's innovation, right? It's kind of, it's technology. Ultimately, it's technology driving everything that and you don't want to shut door on technology changes. So I think it's a sad move. I can see why they are doing that for where they are. There are all kinds of things that I think lead to that. But longer term, strategically, I don't think I think it's pretty sad from my personal.
Yeah, probably sad for China's perspective if you believe in this ecosystem, but it all, for me, born and made in the US, it was good to see kind of more of the decentralization happen on the mining front, which was actually good for the ecosystem.
Absolutely. I definitely agree. Not only people vote with their own feet, right? And things happen. Like it will just choose a different place to happen. So going back to the previous question that Senator was raising, I think the government policy making is actually quite important. Just make sure that you don't stand in the way of innovation. Leave enough room for experiments and enough room for error. There will be mistakes made in the process, as long as it's well intentioned. You need to actually leave room for that. Otherwise, experiments have costs coming with it. But I'm pretty hopeful. I think where we are right now as an industry is there's no turning point. We are going in the right direction. And to your point, I think right now we are, at least with the Bitcoin network, it's more decentralized and it's safer. And that in itself is a good thing.
So then back to your comment about, being a hodler of Bitcoin, hodl meaning holding on for dear life for those that are new to the acronym. For Okcoin's product roadmap and your future vision for it, is it going to continue to be the centralized exchange that it is today, or do you have other plans to continually decentralize it? Are you going to offer more products around lending and, as a global entity, what does that look like?
Yeah, if you draw a continuum of where Okcoin is and centralized and decentralized, we're right now probably closer to centralized, but the direction is definitely going the other side. And also that's why when it comes to some of those earn products, we didn't go the route of centralized applying for a bank license and offer bank yield, bank savings products. We actually connect to DeFi protocols out there and just offer a vehicle for people to get on and off, and that's it. Because I think that's the right direction to go. So you will be seeing more and more product moves in that direction as we move along. And some are probably smaller moves, some will probably be larger moves, but it will continue to move in that direction, the decentralized direction. Either connecting and supporting to the decentralized ecosystem, or adding a decentralized component on our platform and continue to kind of evolve in that direction. Maybe later even as an organization. I mean, right now our team are pretty remote too, so we'll continue to move in that direction.
That's very interesting. Do you foresee, if you were to do a thought experiment 25 years from now, having Okcoin be a fully decentralized autonomous organization with for the people, by the people governance? And
that would be great. I will go to the beach.
Cool. I'm hogging the microphone. Manny has a hand up. Manuel.
Manuel. Yeah, what are some of your favorite projects right now and why?
One of the favorite projects we have, I think, will probably soft launch. I don't know, or soft announce later this month, Angie.
Okay.
So stay tuned.
Next month.
So one that's like live and I can research and learn more about.
Yeah, we have a couple product that's online. You can check out some of those products we have with Stacks, with Miami Coin. Again, not investment advice, but I personally like Stacks community, and I stack that to earn Bitcoin. Like Lightning, we have Lightning integration available, so you can actually use Lightning to deposit and withdraw. So there's some initiative going on there as well to further our efforts there.
Is that Stacks STAX?
STX.
Oh, STX. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's the token. Yeah.
Why are those your favorites?
Stacks is building on top of Bitcoin, and I always believe in Bitcoin being the fundamental layer, and I like their building mentality, and I like the idea of earning Bitcoin when I stack token to help the community to grow, when I can collect Bitcoin as the rewards. So I like that. The recent coin that we just listed, Miami Coin, is another thing built on top of Stacks, and that's where it's the first time that you can actually vote cast your confidence vote in the city, and that will be reflected in the price of that city coin. So I think that is definitely an experiment, but it's interesting how civic engagement can be actually integrated with market movements, and the city can actually benefit from it. There has been 3 million plus, I believe, reward that the Miami city is claiming. So I think that is interesting. And again, Lightning is always dear to my heart, so we'll continue to work on that, make it part of a better part of our experience.
Yeah, I have more questions on that integration thing, but I'll let Brian answer his question first.
Sure, Brian.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, what are your thoughts on proof of work blockchains versus proof of stake blockchains? So I know Bitcoin is proof of work. Ethereum is moving to proof of stake. I work on Algorand or proof of stake, and that's one of my favorite things about Okcoin is you guys have a great relationship with Algorand. So just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah. That's a great topic. I used to be more dogmatic in believing proof of stake being superior to proof of work being superior to proof of stake. I think my thoughts were challenged when I was at a conference earlier this year, actually 1 or 2 months ago. At Satoshi Roundtable, there was a session talking about these two mechanisms, and then one of the participants was like, yes, proof of stake is you're using energy, but it's also an indirect proof of stake. Proof of work is you're using energy to show that you're putting work to it, but you're also you always have to spend money to buy the mining machine, and that is an indirect proof of stake to some extent. I was like, that's actually a good way to look at it. So I don't know. I'm still debating on that. And if anyone have good thoughts around that topic, I would love to be educated too. I'm keeping an open-ended answer to that question. Actually, I haven't fully get to a conclusion where I feel comfortable and can settle down on.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so I work on Algorand, and I mean, I love Algorand. The transaction time is so fast. And so like, I was putting on Ethereum for a while, but I switched to Algorand just because the fees are lower and the transaction pace is so much faster. And it seems like it's scalable, right? So like Ethereum is moving from the proof of work model to proof of stake. And I think that has a lot of opportunity. And I know that you mentioned that you're 70% Bitcoin maximalist, but I think that there might be even opportunity for facilitating Bitcoin transactions with proof of stake. technology or zero knowledge proofs over time. So I'm pro proof of stake at this point, but I do really appreciate your perspective. Thank you.
Yeah, I think one of the factor I still haven't figured out is, I tend to think that proof of stake is better for decentralization, for running a more decentralized and more permissionless, more quote unquote secure from being permissionless perspective network. And proof of stake is, but that obviously has its kind of, comes together with its drawbacks. And proof of stake is faster and it has a lot more benefits, but it does come at the cost of losing some of those, decentralized ethos, if you will, to some extent. So I'm still kind of trying to find the ultimate answer there. Tilted toward one side, but not fully convinced that that's the right answer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have another hand raised. Let's go to Mark because he hasn't had the question asked yet. Hey, Mark.
Hello. Thanks, Fang, for taking the time to join the group. I had a question. What are your thoughts around the digital yuan and the Chinese CBDC?
I don't like any kind of CBDC. So whatever government that is coming from.
Interesting. Yeah, didn't they just do, I think the ICB was just doing some stuff as well with the bank accounts and sweeping accounts. So yeah, it's getting could be a little bit scary.
Yeah, I mean, we are living in a digital world and a lot of our stuff are being followed and censored. So it's already happening. So, I mean, for crypto, there are two binary outcomes, right? And it's all transparent, it's all on-chain, it's all quote unquote sensible, but how from a technology perspective, can we improve privacy protection? And we may end up in very two extreme cases. So hopefully we'll end up in the right side of history, but I think it's up to the community, the broad overall community in terms of where we are going. But the other side, the other side of the coin is that as much as I don't dislike CBDC, I think if any country actually end up doing it, longer term it may be good for overall crypto adoption because number one, it forces broader adoption of crypto or crypto-like application. And there's a lot more education, forced education on the larger population. And then two, arguably people in that scenario would want to have an option, and there's an option being built outside the and offer an alternative. So maybe longer term it can be actually good for faster adoption.
Thank you. Yeah, I hopefully it will, or at least stimulate conversation and bring on more adoption.
Don't get into that, right? We'll just go directly.
Right.
So.
Thank you.
Yeah, with 5 minutes left, we're a little bit out of time. So I guess two last questions for the community. I know there's a lot of information, misinformation, and a lot of changes happening all the time in this space. What are your recommendations on best places to go for resources and learning? And what do you do to stay on top of the information?
I'm not doing a great job with that, just as a disclaimer. So I'm probably the wrong person to ask here. But for me, it's a combination of Twitter and podcast and talking to friends in the space. That's what I do. I think there are pros and cons about having all these information scattered versus having it more concentrated and clearly laid out in one place. Because having it scattered, it's all everywhere, right? And everybody has their own view, and you make your own assessment in terms of what information to take in. But having it in one place, it's easy, but also susceptible to take down. So So I think we'll see. I think we'll continue to stay in this kind of a little bit chaotic status for crypto, which is probably part of the industry and part of growth. We will try to do a better job on our side to pull and provide our support to better education. That will take some time and take more resources when we're doing that, but we'll try to do our part as well.
Awesome. Thank you. And then I know if the community has other questions or wants to get in contact with you or follow you, what are the best ways for the community to stay in touch with you?
I'm on Twitter. My handle is hfangca @hfangca. My DM is open, so you can ping me anytime. Our official handle is also out there, Okcoin. I sometimes check my LinkedIn as well. So if you want to drop me a message there, I'll be checking it occasionally from time to time. But Twitter is probably a good way to get a hold on me.
Awesome. You're part of Crypto Twitter. Thank you so much for your time. Anybody have any last minute thoughts, questions? Not necessarily questions, but thank you so much for your time and giving about an hour of your Friday afternoon to spend with us. And we hope to have you back again because I'm sure the community would love to have more chances to interface with you and Okcoin.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, everyone.
Cool. Well, happy Friday. We'll be having some other speakers coming up soon. I'm really glad everyone was able to join us, and make sure you follow Hong on Twitter. Hong HFangCA is their Twitter handle. And then we also have a direct road into Okcoin through Angie. So product recommendations, updates, suggestions, feedback. We have our own in-house product manager accessible to us.
Yeah, bombard her with your requests. No problem.
Looking forward to it.
All right. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Happy Friday.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. This podcast is non-technical, fun, informative way to learn about money, Bitcoin, blockchains, crypto, and digital assets. This podcast is not financial advice, and your reactions are your total and complete responsibility, y'all. Now, thanks again, and enjoy the show.
What are you doing?
Stuck inside.